Welcome to this explainer. Today we're taking an absolutely epic journey high up into the Himalayas to uncover the deep mythological and historical roots of the Kedarnath temple. It's one of those rare places where physical geography, ancient epic tales, and just raw spiritual endurance all collide in the most spectacular way you can imagine. Let's get right into it. So how exactly did a god fleeing a battlefield end up creating the highest pilgrimage site in the entire world? Well, to answer that, we actually have to rewind thousands of years. Picture the bloody, smoke-filled aftermath of the Kurukshetra War from the great Hindu epic, the Mahabharata. Right? It's a story of ultimate victory, sure, but one that tasted entirely like ash in the mouths of the victors.
Section 1. The Myth of the Bull. To really wrap our heads around this harsh but beautiful landscape, we have to understand the epic guilt of the Pandava brothers. So they just won this catastrophic war, right? But the cost was absolutely staggering. They were desperately seeking absolution from Lord Shiva for the grave sin of killing their own kin, a massive karmic stain known as Brahmahatya. So they track him down to his city of Kashi, but Shiva deliberately avoids them, basically wanting them to really earn their forgiveness. The brothers end up chasing him all the way up into the Garhwal Himalayas to a place called Gupt Kashi. And this is where it gets wild. Shiva actually disguises himself as a bull hiding among a grazing herd. But the strongest brother, Bhima, spots him. Just as Bhima lunges to catch the bull, Shiva dives straight into the earth, and his divine body fragments right there into the Himalayan soil.
Moving on to Section 2, Mapping the Panch Kedar.
Now, what's absolutely fascinating here is how that mythological fragmentation perfectly maps onto the actual physical geography of the Garhwal Himalayas. We're not just talking about a story. This created a physical, sacred circuit known today as the Panch Kedar. Think about this. The complete divine body is spread out across some of the most extreme terrain on planet Earth. The hump remained at Kedarnath at over 3,500 meters high, representing this ascending spiritual energy. The arms emerged at Tugnath, which, by the way, actually holds the title for the highest Shiva temple in the entire world at 3,680 meters. Then you have the face appearing at Rudnath, the navel at Madhya Maheshwar, and finally the matted hair at Kalpeshwar. It's literally a map of the divine perfectly overlaid right onto a mountain range. Just incredible.
But wait a second. If you were paying close attention to that list, you probably noticed something pretty important was missing. If the hump, arms, face, navel, and hair are all scattered across the Garhwal Himalayas, well, it begs a massive theological question, doesn't it? Where exactly did the head of the bull go?
Well, according to ancient Shaivite tradition, the head actually emerged hundreds of miles away at the Pashupatinath temple in Kathmandu, Nepal. So the crucial takeaway here is that this sacred map expands way beyond India. It actually forms a complete six-point divine body spanning the entire Himalayan arc. For serious pilgrims, the journey really isn't considered completely finished until both the body in Garhwal and the head in Nepal have been honored.
Let's look at Section 3, Guardians and Winter Rituals.
So with these temples sitting at such absolutely brutal altitudes, you might be wondering, how is this extreme environment managed spiritually? Especially when winter snows get so deep they literally seal the temple shut for half the year. Enter Lord Bear of Nath. He's what's known as the Kshetrapal, basically the fierce territorial guardian. His own open-air shrine sits just about 500 meters uphill from the main Kedarnath temple, and local tradition says that when the main temple is frozen solid and humans are forced to abandon the valley for the winter, Bear of Nath actually stays behind. He's there actively protecting the sacred valley from negative energy and evil spirits. In fact, a pilgrimage is actually considered incomplete if you don't pay your respects to him first. And because the daily worship of Shiva simply cannot stop no matter what the weather does, we have the Doli Yatra. This is an absolutely incredible seasonal migration. Every autumn, on the day of Bhai Dooj, the main temple is sealed. The festival deity is physically placed into a palanquin and then carried all the way down the mountain by foot. They pass through Gaurikand, eventually reaching its winter home at the Omkareshwar temple in Ukamath. And down there, the daily devotion continues, completely unbroken for 6 months until spring rolls around. And then, they carry him all the way back up.
Section 4. The Miracle of 2013.
Our story takes a pretty sudden, modern turn here. The ancient, massive stone architecture of Kedarnath actually faced its ultimate, most catastrophic test in very recent history. Back in June of 2013, an absolute nightmare scenario unfolded. Massive glacial lake floods, combined with extreme monsoonal rains, just swept violently through the valley at over 3,500 meters up. This literal wall of water and debris completely wiped out the lower town, tragically claiming thousands of lives. And the temple itself? It was sitting directly in the path of this unstoppable force.
But right as that ancient stone temple was about to be completely erased from the map, an enormous boulder barreled down the mountain and somehow miraculously lodged directly behind the structure. Today, it's revered as Bhim Shila. This massive rock literally split the devastating torrent perfectly in two. The floodwaters rushed right around the sides of the temple, completely saving the inner sanctuary. Now, geologists will credit the ancient mortarless construction and the lucky placement of this boulder, but for millions of devotees, they see absolutely clear divine intervention.
Moving to our final part, Section 5, Trek versus Pilgrimage.
That miraculous survival really brings us to a final and honestly, perhaps the most important distinction we can make today, because getting to this place is half the story. You know, it's really easy to confuse a trek with a pilgrimage, especially when you're up in the Himalayas. A trek is just about conquering physical goals, right? The altitude, the gorgeous scenery, the distance. But as the ancient Gorakhnath yogis taught, a pilgrimage is something entirely different. It's defined by intention. You aren't just walking a trail, you're mapping your own internal journey onto the fragmented body of the divine. The physical hardship isn't an obstacle to the experience. The hardship literally is the experience. The mountains don't grade you on your physical fitness, they grade you on your pure intention.
The whole mindset of this region is perfectly captured in this really beautiful folk legend from Ukimoth. It says, "You will not find me in cities. You will find me where the air runs out." Wow. It's such a powerful reminder that the extreme altitude, the literal thinness of the air in these mountains, actually serves to thin the veil between the human and the divine. The very struggle to breathe becomes a vital part of the spiritual purification.
So, as we wrap up this explainer on the incredible, enduring legacy of the Panch Kedar, I want to leave you with one final question. Knowing the deep myth, the history, and the incredibly intense physical reality of this landscape, are you ready to find the divine where the air runs out? Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I really encourage you to carry this thought with you on whatever inner journey you decide to take next.